Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Design Recharge. I am excited. We'll have only 2 episodes left, and it's all Orange County people. So, because now that Nathan has moved, he is an Orange County guy. So, Nathan, I'm super excited to have you back. I had you back in March, and boy, has life changed for you. So,
Yeah,
I'm really excited. We were talking before just about weather changes from Oklahoma to California. So, give us a little bit of your background. I know I got a bunch of questions. I always send questions to everybody who's on my list, and then I always ask for anybody to send me the rest of their questions, any other question you wanted answered. And so Emma had a great question, and I told her I was going to start off with hers. So, how did you get started, and when was the moment you decided you wanted to pursue lettering full time, and where did you turn to? So,
yeah,
give us a little of your background and answer that.
cool. Yeah, basically, kind of, I'll try to make like the long story short up until like I started doing what I'm doing now. But it all like really kind of started like back, um, honestly, kind of like in the eighth grade. Like I've always drawn and loved to draw. And then in the eighth grade, a buddy of mine had a band, and he was like wanting me to design a T-shirt. So I drew this T-shirt up for him and gave it to him, and he took it to his dad, which at the time worked at this, you know, screen printing business, and like he made shirts and signs. And like the next day, he showed up at PE and asked me if I wanted to like start drawing for him. And so it was just funny that I was in the eighth grade and this guy was asking me to do some drawings for him. It's just like that's one of the things that I'm thankful for growing up in a small town. It's like those kind of opportunities I feel like kind of only happen there. But anyways, from there, I got Photoshop and Illustrator from that guy and got more interested in graphic design and understanding, what looks good on a shirt and all that stuff. And then by the time high school came around, I'd been working in Photoshop and Illustrator and stuff, since roughly the eighth grade. So I was starting to become more and more familiar with like the programs. And so when college, came around, I was pretty much, my mind had been made up that I wanted to go for graphic design. So went to school for graphic design, just got an associate's in graphic design, and straight out of college, I went full time at an advertising agency that I had been interning at. So it just kind of rolled over into a full time job. And so I was doing a lot of like branding and like logo design and the occasional like brochure and website, just kind of general graphic design stuff. And the more I was there, the more I kind of found myself kind of going back to drawing, and I just kind of found myself getting kind of burnt out by like the monotonous kind of projects that I felt like I couldn't really connect to. Like in college, I feel like I really had this strong connection with what I was doing because I was able to, make these decisions to like go down avenues and paths that I was most excited about. And I was really passionate about the work that I was putting out. And I feel like, in the graphic design job, the more I was there, I kind of felt like a lot of that passion was being lost in projects that I felt like I couldn't totally relate with or connect with. And so I guess that's when I started naturally kind of going back to drawing, and it wasn't even a conscious decision. It was almost like a subconscious move where it's like I was needing more like outlets to express myself, and I just like naturally went back to like my first love, I guess, is drawing. And so it kind of started out as like just little scribbles and doodles and posting to Instagram and Dribble. And the more people kind of saw my work, and I saw that people were excited about it, it was like, really encouraging to just kind of keep pursuing that path. And because that's the thing, before I went to school for graphic design, um, I thought about going into illustration, but I didn't have a personality. Like my work was all just photorealism. I would just look at a drawing and try to duplicate it. And it's really hard to make money like doing that sort of illustration unless you're just really good, because there's a lot of people that do that. So it's hard to the market's really saturated. So um, I guess that was the thing that got me excited whenever I started posting work to Instagram and kind of just scribbling and just kind of doing these random little doodles. I found myself putting more of my personality into those drawings, and there wasn't a lot of pressure to make them anything specific because there wasn't anybody, like nobody was paying for those drawings. I was just doing them on my downtime. So um, that's when the typography kind of came into play. Like I was doing a lot of logos at work, and so I was drawing a lot of type, and so it made me want to just draw more type in general. So I started doing stuff like the posters that I've got on my website, and um, so yeah, once I kind of realized this personality that I could put into my work, I just kind of ran with it and just like kept going down that road. And the more I was doing that, the more freelance work I got, and just again like posting like almost daily, if I could, just to kind of get my name out there. And eventually, more recently, about 6 months ago or 7 months ago, I got an email from the founder of Sevenly, and at the time, I thought it was just, hey, like I knew what they did, Sevenly, basically to kind of unpackage it. It's uh, what it is. It's kind of an e-commerce website where every 7 days we support a new charity. So um, $7 from each purchase on the website. So things like T-shirts or jewelry or posters. $7 from each purchase goes to the charity that we're representing that week. And so I'd seen them online, and I kind of knew what they did, and I knew that T-shirt designs and stuff like that was a big part of what they did. So I was like, oh, okay, well maybe they're just looking for some freelance, because I was getting a lot of freelance, requests at that time. And but he wanted to talk to me. So like the next day, we set up a phone call, and basically, got on the phone with him, and like he kind of started going into a spiel, and was offering me a job, or an interview at least. And it was uh, it was just one of those things where, like, on the phone with him, man, I mean, nothing was definite at that point, but I just kind of knew like this is kind of what I needed to do. And um, it was just crazy how fast it happened. So, I mean, like about 2 weeks later, I was flying out to California for an interview, and then roughly about 2 or 3 weeks later, I was moving out here. But I don't know. It was one of like the biggest but also easiest decisions I've ever had to make. It was kind of scary, moving away from what was normal and what was comfortable. But at the same time, it's been so rewarding, and I feel like I've grown so much. And if I would have stayed where I was, uh, I mean, I don't think I would be where I am today, like um, in illustration and kind of skill wise, because I feel like I was drawing just in the evenings and anytime I could, and now it's my full-time job. So like it's almost a 24/7 kind of thing where I feel like I'm drawing. So I mean, you definitely grow a lot when you're doing that. So
So
that's
do you
kind of
like
the short
also
story.
do you like also working for somebody where maybe it's something you can relate to and that it really has a purpose? Is that something that you think draws you to Sevenly, not just the hand lettering, or do you think that doesn't matter?
Totally. Like it's such a big part, and that's kind of one of the things. Like whenever I started getting more into type, and I decided to put up a website and start offering prints and stuff. I think maybe I talked about it, this book last time we were talking, but I was reading this book around that time whenever I was thinking about launching my website. I don't know, I was like researching all these different business books and just kind of understanding how to kind of market myself and stuff like that. So I read this book called Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And again, it was more of a business kind of book and talking about like, um, as a business, understanding why you're doing things and look at that instead of the goal being profit or this amount of money that you're trying to raise or whatever. And those things will just naturally happen, because that's not the goal. It's like why you're doing it is the goal. And that for me really helped me realize why me, like as an artist and just honestly as a person, like kind of why I'm doing what I'm doing and kind of like why I'm here a little bit. So basically, the thing, kind of my whole life, the thing that's just kind of gotten me really excited is the opportunity to inspire people, because I feel like where I came from, there's just a lot of whoop, sorry. My
I'm
computer
I'm here.
almost went to sleep. Where I come from, and honestly where I was at, and I felt like I was slipping into before I moved out here is, there's just so many talented people, and so all of us are talented in our own ways, and there's so many of us that aren't using those gifts, and it's just because we're afraid to take that step and to just kind of journey outside of our comfort zone to do like what we're supposed to do. And so anyways, like for me, it's like if I can inspire somebody to do what they were made to do, like that's my why. Like that's why I do art and that's why I do design. And so for me, coming to a company like Sevenly, it's almost like a no-brainer, like on so many different levels. Like one, they're inspiring people to be generous and to give to people who need it, and that's a form of inspiration, and that's something that I can totally plug into. Um, and on the other hand, they're doing lettering and they're hiring me to draw every day. So I'm like, oh, that's another duh, And so that was just kind of one of the things. Again, whenever I was on the phone with Dale, I was just it just kind of like hit me in the chest whenever he threw out the offer because I was like, like this is what I need to do. But it was just kind of a big move. But yeah, I haven't regretted one bit of it.
So a lot of times people when they and you started early. I mean, somebody was commissioning you to do stuff in 8th grade, so that's pretty good. But what when you're a lot of times people in the early stages they go straight to computer and then they get sucked in. So what about doing it with your hands and keeping that craftsmanship? Um, why? What keeps you on paper? And I know this wasn't one of my
Yeah,
questions. Sorry.
no, yeah, no, and it's funny because I was actually just kind of thinking about that last week. I think, and honestly, it's where I was at again whenever I went to college and went to school for design. College teaches you how to be profitable in the industry, and basically, design school teaches you how to be valuable to an advertising agency because, like, that's kind of the high bar. You know what I mean? If you're in graphic design and you go work at some huge agency, that's kind of more or less in graphic design, like the goal, I guess you could say. Like that's the highest bar you can hit, like coming right out of college, working at some big ad agency. Unless on a whim, like you go work at some studio and you're just doing crazy cool work right off the bat, but that's kind of rare. So college is preparing you for that, and agencies need you to be able to do any kind of work they need you to do. Like they're not looking for a specific look or style or personality. Like they'll freelance for that stuff. They need people in house that can do anything. And so I left school with that mindset, thinking, oh, like I have to be so flexible and I have to be so like um, able to
Versatile.
do any kind of design. Yeah, and that's good. And I think that's again like it's very valuable to have those traits, but it kind of killed my creativity a little bit because it kind of almost more or less forced me to like, I don't know, for lack of a better word, kind of sell out to myself. Like I had all of this passion for design, and all of a sudden I was at work like doing work for I don't know, I don't want to sound like I don't want it to come off in the wrong way, but just for like everybody else, and I wasn't like feeding my own creativity. And again, like I just I never want to go down too far that road because that's also a very selfish road. And ultimately, we're all doing work for others, and we should all be helping others, and we all have these gifts to help others. So I never want to get to a point where I'm just like, oh, I'm only going to do my kind of work, and you can't influence me. You know what I mean? But you just have
Right.
to find that good balance. And I feel like for me, I was very out of balance at my last position, and so finding a place like Sevenly helped me to kind of balance that out again. And so again, I feel like this is a very long way of answering this question, but uh, I guess like what keeps me on paper is just my love for drawing that kind of began, whenever I was little. And so going to school, again, I thought I had to do everything on the computer because that's how they taught us to do things. Like my first 3 semesters actually were all just on paper. Like they never let us touch a computer. So that was really important, and I really loved those semesters, but it's almost like I forgot those later on in school, you know? And so I left school thinking I had to be on the computer, but once I was again just kind of in the industry and started kind of rediscovering myself as a designer and stuff, it kind of reminded me of my love of paper. And honestly, at this point, I feel like doing what I'm doing for as long as I have now. Well, it hasn't even been that long, but I feel like I'm all of a sudden kind of faster on paper than honestly I am on the computer at times. And so like I'll be trying to modify a font on the computer and I'll just have to stop myself and be like, why don't you just draw it? You know what I mean? Because it'll probably be a little faster. I mean, it's definitely harder to get things kind of just precise and like crisp and clean like it is on the computer, but honestly, that's not really the thing that I look for half the time. I like that human side of it, you know, those little imperfections that I don't know, it just kind of helps your work stand out against um, I don't know, just all the design that's out there right now that's really, you know, perfect and clean. So
Right. There's so much that is so I think it's just a tool. The computer is just a tool. It doesn't have to solve all the problems. And I try to tell my students, keep work. Your design is when you're sketching. That's when you're designing. Somebody else can do the production, if you get it done.
right,
That's when you're thinking and stuff. So, but it's hard because they just want to jump on and get it done. And I think
right,
in ad agencies and at design firms, a lot of times you're under the pressure so much for time and deadlines that there isn't a lot of time to take in and solve it very thoughtfully. um, if you're, sometimes just taking that extra time to do it by hand. I mean, it takes me I use tracing paper when I'm doing something by hand, and I redraw it on the computer sometimes, or sometimes
yeah, yeah,
all these different things, and there's so many steps, but it's so much more fulfilling to do it like
right,
that. But I can
yeah. Well,
imagine you
and
get
to
faster. I would hope.
yeah, yeah, totally. And I feel like it's such a it speeds up the process. Like in school, you know, and even now, like I mean, just when you're super busy, whenever I'm going into a project, but again, more so in school, I would always think of, especially around finals and stuff, you know, I would be like, okay, with this project, I'm looking to do the least amount of work, but have a very strong concept. You know what I mean? So I would, when you're sketching and like thinking through everything, that's where you can find those solutions. You know, so look for like high concept, low work. You know what I mean? So like that's kind of what I was going for, and I think a lot of people get caught up in low concept and they have to compensate with a crazy amount of detail and a crazy amount of imagery. And I feel like that's where things kind of go south is when there hasn't been enough thought put into the beginning. So your end result, yeah, it may be crazy and ornate and ridiculous amount of time was into it, but it's going to be harder to appreciate because it's not very tasteful. You know, like the concept isn't really there. Um, so yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like it's kind of okay. This is a terrible like analogy, but it's Christmas and whatever. It's almost like a Christmas cookie that's been decorated to perfection. It's just like, whoa, this is the most ornate Christmas cookie I've ever seen. But then you take a bite and you're like, oh, this is terrible. You know, like because the work wasn't put into the batter. You know what I mean? Terrible
Right.
analogy,
They
but
use salt instead of sugar. No, that's a great analogy. I
yeah,
love that analogy. I think sometimes it's
yeah,
that craftsmanship and when I had Jason Carn, which shout out to Jason, he's here today. He talked about that too, and just that craftsmanship and his love for the craftsmanship. And I know you're the same way. It's that, the computer is just a tool. And I love that were designing so early in life, and then you came back to this, and you worked fairly small on when I talked to you last time. You were just using like a 5x7 moleskin with a Sharpie,
yeah.
right? Is that
Mm.
have you transitioned tools? Have you, since now you're kind of, give them a background of what Sevenly's like, who you're working with, like other type designers, other designers? Can you kind of go through that a little bit for us?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, Sevenly, the creative department kind of consists of there's two other illustrators, so Zachary Smith and then Sean Tolgetsky are both illustrators there, which is crazy because we were all following each other on Instagram, around this time last year. And so whenever I moved out here, they were looking for other, typographers, and they just happened to come along. So it's just cool finally like working with those guys, and they're awesome guys and like doing super cool work. So it's really inspiring to just like feed off of each other and kind of throw
Yeah.
projects back and forth and see what each other is doing and like letting it influence your own work. But then there's also um, two other graphic designers. So Trevor Rogers is kind of our brand manager, and then Brian Hurst is another graphic designer there. And so yeah, it's a really cool environment, and like all the creatives are in one office, so we can just all kind of like feed off of each other. And so it's great, like because again, whenever I was kind of back in Oklahoma and doing a lot of freelance work and stuff, I was kind of having to just teach myself, I didn't have anybody else to throw my illustrations or typography up against. So I was just kind of, honestly, it was kind of a good thing where I feel like I didn't feel pressured to like stack up against anybody. I was just doing my thing, and like there wasn't anybody really around to like, um, give me too much peer pressure, so I was kind of free to do whatever I wanted without, kind of worrying about that stuff. But I feel like kind of where I'm at now, it's a really healthy place where I feel like I've kind of gotten more confident in what I'm doing. So now I'm in a place where I can kind of let other people kind of um, mold me and kind of inspire me and like work off of other people's, kind of, suggestions and stuff like that. But anyways, yeah. So basically, I don't know. Suddenly, it's kind of a I don't know, 9 to 5, 9 to 6 kind of gig, and so we just come in and again, like I just feel crazy blessed to be where I'm at because I just show up and draw all day and do type, and it's great. But yeah, kind of like what you were saying, one thing that I've really enjoyed being at Seven Lee and having more time to draw and more time to explore is exploring different mediums. Because like what I was saying, or what you were saying last year, I was doing mainly just Sharpie, and
Mhm.
again for that season that I was in, I feel like it was really important because I was trying not to sketch much, like with a pencil. I was just trying to like go straight at it
Mhm.
with a Sharpie, and it really kind of taught me to like keep moving forward and not worry on like the simple little mistakes or details. And um, so that season was a really kind of important, I feel like, in just forcing me to move forward and keep moving and not, camping out too much on one thing. And but again, being here at Sevenly, like I still use like Sharpies on a lot of my pieces. Sometimes I'll do like a whole piece just in fine point Sharpies, and it's kind of fun going back to what I was doing whenever I started. But more recently, I've been working a lot more with a brush, so just like a brush dipped in ink, or more recently, like I just did a piece just all out of acrylic paints. So just like red and black, basically just working in high contrast colors so that whenever I scan it into the computer, it's easy to separate for like screen printing and stuff.
I'm gonna pull
So
that
it's
one
just
up
been
because
fun showing.
it's
Yeah.
it's not one you sent me, but I have your Instagram feed up so I can go and quickly
Okay.
look at
Yeah.
it. But this is kind of
Yeah,
what you're
that's the
talking
one.
about, right? That's a tiny
Yeah,
brush, a
definitely.
000.
Yeah, yeah. It's been really cool, and I mean, again, it's like it's so different because working with a pen, I feel like I have so much control because the pen, it's such a hard tip. Like every line I make, like I know what the line's gonna look like. And with a brush, like I've never worked with a brush really until I came to Sevenly, and so it's been a whole different thing. Like I feel like I'm rediscovering illustration. It's so fun, just kind of it's like frustrating but fun at the same time, just trying to make it do what I want it to do, but yeah, that one was really fun, and I just finished that one up last week, so hopefully it'll be up
So
in a few weeks.
was somebody else in the art department using a brush and then you were like, I'm gonna try that? Is that, or you were
Ah,
like, no, I'm just gonna want something different?
yeah, kind of. I mean, like Zachary Smith, like he's all about painting and like uh, he loves doing like sign painting type of stuff, and like I'm sure you guys have seen like all the saws that he paints and stuff like that, and so I'm sure that played a factor, like because he's always talking about painting, like how much he loves to paint. So I'm sure that was just in the back of my head, And then there was I'm trying to oh, okay. So Jackie Oakley, I don't know if you've seen her work. I I can't. Let me see. She spells her
Oakley, like the
name.
sunglasses?
Yeah, but she spells her name here. I'll paste it in here. Spells her first name a little different, but she does a lot of work with acrylics and super good stuff. I just put it in the comment or the chat field there so you could search her work. But I found her work about like maybe like 2 or 3 months ago, and she was, I don't know, like just the way she uses acrylics, but she's also just has a really good eye for design and illustration. That kind of got me thinking a little bit about using a brush, and then I started following some other artists that do a lot of watercolor and um, so I've been kind of playing with watercolor a little bit too. So I don't know. I get like a little kind of antsy if I get too stuck on one kind of medium. I feel like I always have to like keep trying something that's going to challenge me a little bit. So I guess that's kind of been the drive to help me explore other mediums.
And that's good because it helps feed you, and then maybe you feel like you're able to come back. So Jason had a technical question. Are the brush and colored
Oh, yeah.
pencil pieces really hard to separate when you go to set it up for print?
Yeah, the colored pencil one that he's probably talking about, that was I don't know if I'll do that again. Like it was fun to draw, but whenever I was separating it, I don't know. I'm not super excited with how it's separated. It's hard just with the varying tones and the colored pencils. It's hard to like make it look like it does on paper on a t-shirt.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know. Everybody at Sevenly were hyped with it, so I'm glad, you know, they were because I spent the whole budgeted amount of time trying to get it to look right, and so I didn't really have much time to redraw something. But that's kind of the exciting thing too, is just kind of working on the fly and under the gun a little bit. But
So how does it work? Because every campaign's 1 week. Do you guys all get like a few weeks in advance and you start working then you only work on them for a week? Or does Zachary get one and then you get one and then Sean gets one? Or how does it work?
yeah, it's basically like every week. It all kind of trickles down. So, there's obviously like people above the illustrators that are working with charities and like kind of working to get those relationships strengthened or nailed down so that, weeks down the road we'll actually be working with them. But then after that's nailed down, like there has to be people that like put together the concept of like the t-shirts and like my creative director like works up phrases to give to us. And so we all kind of get a creative brief. Again, if everything's working the way it should, like say like at the beginning of the week or the middle of the week, and then we have about a week to work on the actual t-shirt design. Sometimes a little more than that. Uh, and so, but it all kind of gets, yeah, spread out a little bit. So, I'll get a creative brief, like Zach and Sean, they'll get a creative brief, and then we'll just kind of work on those for about a week. And then kind of sprinkled in between, they'll just kind of be random little t-shirt designs that um, we also kind of get thrown our way. So the campaign designs and the campaign t-shirts are usually more um, kind of solid designs, like those kind of get a little more time and like a lot more kind of work get put into those. And then like the little designs sprinkled here and there are usually just kind of honestly sometimes things that we even just are able to come up with on our own, like in between projects and kind of in downtime. Um, you know, for instance, I don't know if like how closely you follow Sevenly, but there was a design I did a little while back that just said "give," and I carved it out of just rubber erasers, and that was
Hmm.
something. I was just in between projects, and I had this box of rubber erasers that one of my buddies in Oklahoma gave me like about a year ago, and like it's funny because he's not even a designer; he's like a photographer or something, and he was like, "Hey man, like I've got this box of erasers. Like I saw somebody carving stamps into them one time. Like you should probably do that sometime." And it's funny because it's like a year later, and I like carried those stamps with me out to California, and made a design out of them, and we were able to use it on Sevenly's website. So um, it's cool to just be able to explore like that. So sometimes we're even able to kind of come up with t-shirts without kind of direction being given to us. So yeah,
Yeah, well, that's cool. So,
yeah,
I Dan had a question, and I think this is a good time. So this is kind of about your process. So, the process itself, specifically how you get ideas into the form that appear on paper or computer, eventually on the t-shirt. So, are you doing multiple revisions on these, or are you just coming up with something and then revising, or are you coming up with a bunch of different options for one kind of solution? And then I'll ask you the second part after. I
okay,
think we've kind of
yeah.
answered it, but
Basically, it kind of varies. Like one thing I feel like is that's really nice about Seven Lee and like my creative director is that I feel um, like they really trust us, like as artists and illustrators. Like I really get the sense that like they hired us to do our job, so I feel like there's a lot of trust there, and so it's nice. There's not a lot of uh, oh, I don't know. I feel like we'll kind of bring them a sketch or bring them a concept, and I feel like they kind of trust us to carry that concept forward to kind of see what's in our head, because I think sometimes ideas can get kind of killed a little bit, a little early if somebody's not totally trusting like where you're going to go with it, or they don't totally understand like what you're thinking.
right.
So it's good to get your idea across clear, so you don't run into things further down the road, but at the same time it's just nice to be able to like present a sketch and if the concept is there and all the words are in the right place and it says what they need it to say I feel like there's a lot of trust there for us to kind of flesh it out a little bit. So if there are a lot of sketches and stuff, I feel like it's usually more just on a personal side of things, like me wanting to make sure that I've got it right. And so but generally I only sketch out about like one or two kind of ideas. And then from there, it's just kind of like one sketch is actually kind of probably like 5 or 10 sketches, but it's all just the same sketch being refined. So like I usually start small and I just sketch like very loosely and like really general like layout. So an eagle might look like some weird little scribble. It doesn't even look
I
like an
think
eagle. And then
I think on this one
yeah, yeah.
you can see your little sketch. And so if you're new to Spreecast, you can mouse off of the image and then you can mouse back on it and you can drag it and click it and put it wherever you want. But I'm the only one that can take it off screen. So, but I remembered this image, so I thought maybe this will help you
Yeah,
explain.
yeah, totally. Yeah, it's a good, it's a good example because yeah, basically, like that's the original sketch right there. So on the left of the final piece, and there was actually one other sketch like right underneath that sketch. And so basically, I took it to my creative director and I was like, "Hey, like, do you like this one or do you like this one?" And he was like, "Hey, like, I like this one." And it's also funny because well, that again, it was just like both just very rough sketches, and it's just great to have somebody who kind of like understands the roughness of that. Like I feel like sometimes people you would show them that sketch and they'd be like, "Yeah, it's cool, but I need to like see what you're thinking a little better." So
They
it's
need
nice to
it
have that
tighter.
trust. Yeah.
Yeah, they trust.
So basically,
But go ahead.
oh no, no, it's yeah. Yeah, just the trust to kind of that you'll carry it forward. So from there, I basically kind of carry that really rough sketch like onto the bigger sketch pad there, and pretty much draw it out equally as rough, just so I make sure I have the layout right and the type is where it needs to be. I always start with just really basic type, just like basically like stick figure type, like the
Mhm.
skeleton of the type. That way you're not like wasting all this time like with the details and the thickness of
Right,
the type and then get to the S on heroes and realize that I went too far and it's like running off the page or something.
right.
So basically start really rough and then I kind of lightly erase like my whole sketch to where I can kind of still lightly see the sketch. And then I just draw over that sketch again, refine that, kind of redraw the whole thing again, kind of erase it again. So I just kind of do that until I've got it to a point where I can kind of trust myself to ink it and like kind of fill in those details. So again, yeah, that's kind of the process, but honestly, kind of going back to the whole concept thing, the thinking of the idea and kind of the sketching phase, I feel like that's probably around like 60% or 70% of like the whole process, and then actually drawing the thing and putting it on in the computer, I feel like that's more of just the um, I don't know. I
Production?
feel like design is yeah, yeah, exactly. Like design, I feel like is more like in your head, and drawing is just a tool to like show you what was in your head. You know what I mean? So
Right.
if you can get everything lined up in your head, it's a lot easier on paper, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so can you describe the feeling you have when you believe you've got a good idea? Dan wants to know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I feel like it's always nice when you kind of do get that feeling because like it's hard for me to like design something or draw something that I truly feel like excited about. Like, I mean, I'm always like happy with work that I put out. You know, I wouldn't like let it leave my hands if I'm not happy with it. But, you know, every once in a while you do like you're working on a project and you're just like getting all excited, you know, to like put down the next stroke because you're just excited about where it's going, you know? And you know, that's always a good feeling. Like more recently with kind of like the stuff I've been doing with brush. Um, like there was a little post again, like I don't think I sent it to you, Diane, but I think it's on my Instagram of like a
Okay.
an owl, and he's just kind of like looking over his shoulder a little bit, and that was one of those things where I was in between projects, and um, I don't know what got me drawing an owl, but I was just wanting to draw something with a brush and ink again, and I had drawn an owl like in the past, like a little while back for a project, and then I came across some owls that somebody did online, and they just had so much personality, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. So, you know, I started drawing this owl, and the more I kind of drew it, and the more, you know, I kind of tried to get personality into him, the more I just kind of got excited about him, and I was like, oh, like I've got to use this for something, you know, and managed to like come up with some phrase that fit like kind of what was happening in that drawing. And again, like it was just one of those deals where it turned out that we could use it for a T-shirt. So, so that one will be like hitting Sevenly hopefully in a little while. So, but yeah, again, like that was one of those things where it just kind of like spurred out of nothing. You know, like I sat down at my desk thinking that I was just going to be doodling, and then it turned into this great thing, and was able to get excited about it and push it forward. So I guess that's one of the things I really like about just kind of just the way I work. I feel like it's hard for me to work in a lot of structure, but whenever I have like a lot of time and like uh, just like a kind of an easygoing environment where I can just sit down and do things like that, it I don't know. It's hard to bottle creativity, but when you can let it just run around, I feel like that's when the best work comes out, you know?
Yeah, you're not just working out in the morning from 6 to 8. You're working out all day long. You're doing, um,
Right,
you know, it sounds like a great place, a great environment for your creativity. They're not really hampering you down. But I also think one reason they trust you is because you had built a name and you had built trust because of all the things you had done before. So they knew your style and they knew what you were capable of, but they also saw where else you could go. And they probably knew when they bring you all three together that you would just make each other even better. And um,
right.
anyway, so Neil had a question, and I'm gonna. Oh, who are lettering artists that inspire you and why? I think that's what Ashley's talking about. Oh, and what other things inspire you? Music, art,
Okay.
environmental, books.
Yeah, yeah, that I would answer that question to like somebody the other day, and that's like a hard one for me because um, I don't know. I feel like I'm inspired by so many different things, like just kind of a huge wide range of things. Like it's like I think how I answered it with like this other person was like it's a combination of like Pinterest and everything. You know what I mean? Like as wide as that is, like because like if I'm gearing up to like to work on a project than if say I'm at Sevenly and I'm like sitting down, I just got my creative brief and I'm like trying to figure out what I want to do. Then I'm like combing through Pinterest and like pinning stuff that other people have pinned and looking at other artists' work. But I don't really find myself camping out on any one person or really kind of group of people too much. And it's not that like I don't appreciate any one person or one group of people, more than whatever. But I just I feel like I just need more like variety in order to get the results that I want. And so it's really, again, when I say like a combination of Pinterest and everything, like I feel like I'm on the clock like 24/7. Like I can't like stop thinking about like design and illustration and lettering and like, so I mean, just walking around the grocery store and like looking at packaging and like looking at illustrations on like, I don't know, like the cheesy illustrations that are like wrapping around the grocery store, like some like field and some farmer plowing or whatever, like that stuff like gets me stoked, like seeing what how other people are doing stuff. And again, it might look weird in the application that this person did it, but it's only because it doesn't fit like what like let me back up, like that application might look weird, but it's a good application, like in some other setting where it's like I may not have done that application there in the way that they did it, in that grocery store, but like I could use that same like technique like somewhere else in like some design. So something like that owl or like some random design. I feel like some of my favorite designs have happened and like the concept behind them have come from some source of inspiration that honestly like I can kind of remember but can't totally remember like what it was. I was like, I don't know where I saw this thing, but I want to
Right.
do this thing like right here. So, but I mean, I guess to rattle off a few names, like one that I said, Jackie Oakley earlier, like her, the way she uses color and again, just the brush and her line work is just really great. Another guy that I've been really following is McKay Felt, and I'll put his name in there too. Um, that
So
guy,
Dan,
his illustration,
go ahead.
McKay Felt,
Okay.
yeah, like just he does a lot of like illustrations of just people, and he's got so much personality in his, in I don't know, just in drawing people. I feel like that's such a hard thing to do when you can draw somebody like capture their personality and like capture that person. Like I feel like personality is like such a deep thing, and when you can like show it on a face, like and capture that on paper, but also like maintain your style as an illustrator, like I feel like that's pretty powerful, and he does a good job of that. As far as like typographers go, I mean, honestly, like Zachary Smith and Sean Tolgetsky, I mean, working with those guys every day, I find myself like doing a lot of the same stuff, like that brush or that piece that I did that you just showed with like the fox and the red and black ink, or acrylic paints. Some of the type that I did in that, like it's like a secondary kind of part of the headline. I feel like I like partially like ripped off Sean Togetsky. Like he's been doing this like a crazy great script work on Sevenly's home website. I'm sure if you went there and saw it, it'd say like Men's Shop or just all of the great brush script. So I kind of like pulled inspiration from that into like my design, and I should probably credit him on that. But so I mean, just I feel like the people that you're working closest with are gonna rub off on you. Thanks, Sean. um, but let's see. Yeah, I don't know. It's honestly kind of hard for me to like rattle off names, but other than
You're
just
pulling
artists and illustrators,
you're pulling
it
inspiration from everything you see. You're keeping your eyes
yeah,
open and you're letting
totally
everything inspire you. And I think that's probably one of the things that makes you more well-rounded is because you're not like, "Oh, I have my designer hat on. I'm in my 8 hours here." It's a
right.
lifestyle and it's part of your life and it's part of what you want to do. So, um all right,
Feel
so
like
we
a lot of times, people will ask the question like, "Oh, like
Nicholas,
teach me how to do type or teach me how to do art or whatever," and almost like it's something that you can just give to somebody, like, "Here's all of my knowledge." And And I think that's how a lot of people approach school. It's like, oh, I'm going to go to school and they're going to tell me how to be amazing at
Yeah.
whatever it is. And like that's not the solution. I feel like if whatever you're most passionate about, like whatever you're thinking about, like every minute of the day, like even if it's not your full-time job or it's something that you've never even told anybody about, like it's just something that you have always been thinking about. Like I truly feel like that's the thing you should be pursuing. Like if you've got that fire in you, like why aren't you using it? You know what I mean? Because when you're working your hardest and you're being passionate about the work that you're putting out, that's going to be recognized by so many people. Like genuine passion trumps like I don't know, trumps so many other things, you know? So if but you're really passionate about say writing, I would do writing because you're going to be more satisfied rather than trying to please a bunch of people. You know what I mean? If doing type and illustration is just a trendy thing and you want to do it because you feel like other people would think you're cooler for doing it, or in the design world, it would be looked upon as like way cooler than other stuff. Like that's a really sorry like reason for pursuing something. So if you can just be passionate about whatever you're doing, like just run after that and like your goals and all that stuff like will just happen, you know? So if you can be passionate about it, like do that, you know?
Be true to who you are and what you're passionate about. I think that's great.
Totally. Yeah.
So So Nicholas had a question. Do you think since hand lettering is such a specific skill that it's easier to find clients freelancing or to find a job that offers you a full-time lettering position? I'm having a hard time finding slash thinking of any places that would hire me just as a letterer. You struck gold with Sevenly. Anyway, so I'm going to put it up, but it was so long I would have had to read more, so that's why I read it from over to the side.
Yeah, yeah. No, I honestly I feel like I'm such a like unrealistic like example of the industry because I feel like jobs like Sevenly just hardly ever come along. Like I feel like I've already hit my dream job, like, and I'm like way too early in life to have already hit my dream job. I'm like, dang it, like I hope it goes up from here because it's all gonna be downhill if not, you know? Because I mean, I genuinely like love what I'm doing, and it's great that I can come to work and work with this amazing group of people and just be so inspired by like all the talent that's there, like not even in the creative department but just in every other department. Everybody's so genuinely like passionate about what they're doing and about like helping people, and like that's a really hard thing to find. Like, and I don't think if you are in a place like that, like I wouldn't spend your days complaining about little things because you need to like look around and see where you're at. um but if you are looking for a position like that, again, it's just kind of I don't know. It is hard, you know. Again, like agencies don't typically hire full time, like somebody like a typographer and illustrator. You could maybe work at like a skate brand and do type and illustration, but again, it's um, it's not. It's more of like a seasonal kind of thing. They kind of put out stuff, so I don't know. I've never worked at a like a skate brand or something like that, so I don't know how that would work. But
But
um,
it's a
I mean, or
yeah, Jason and Jason, Jason Carn, you may want to try to type in here too. But you both were you were Nathan, you were working at an agency and then you were doing all this other freelance stuff and stuff for yourself at night. So I think it's about building that up. I also interviewed Zachary Smith. I can find that one and pop that up too. That one may be a good one to watch too, because I did talk about just how much social media played a role in you maybe getting the job at Sevenly. But it again and freelance stuff, I think it's a choice. And I do think he
yeah,
probably struck gold. And I'm so glad you're so happy there. I think that it's different. I think that everybody has a different what's perfect for them. It may be working for yourself and just doing a bunch of different freelance, but
yeah,
there probably aren't as many lettering positions as there are just design positions, but you can solve many design um, problems with hand drawn type or with lettering, I would think.
right. Yeah, and it's all in just kind of like looking for those like opportunities to use that, you know. If I was more confident in my last position, I with drawing and illustration, I may have like taken more opportunity to use hand-drawn type and illustration, but again, it wasn't something that I'd done a lot of at the time, and so I was afraid to spend a lot of time on something for the risk of getting to the deadline and realizing that I hadn't had the time that I needed to create the result that I wanted, you know? But yeah, like full-time freelance, you know, again, kind of like what uh, Jason's talking about there, just like if you're going to be doing full-time freelance, I've never done full-time freelance, so like props to guys like Jason Carr,
Yeah, it's ballsy kind of to do that.
100% full-time freelance, but um, because I mean, you're just kind of it's all about like marketing yourself and making sure that people are seeing your work. Like even when you don't need any more work, like you have to like keep putting work out there because by the time it hits the people's eyes that you need to hit, like you're going to be done with those jobs that you were working on at the time, you know? So yeah, it's definitely still a full-time job, you know, if you're doing freelance and you may not be, you know, um, or even if you aren't doing full-time freelance and you're wanting to get to that point, the way I was kind of looking at it again before I came to Sevenly is just again, it's almost like a full-time job to get to that full-time job of working with type and stuff. It's like just making up reasons to do type and making up projects to put type over and illustrate onto, you know?
Yeah, you had to hustle, and you did hustle. And I think Zachary did the same thing. I know Jason's done the same thing. It is that constant. You can't just like, oh, I've got a job. I'm gonna not market myself anymore. So it is that constant kind of stuff. So it's a little
Yeah.
off train of thought. Meredith says, but how do charities
Yeah.
or can charities get connected with Sevenly? Is there a link that I should share, or is it easy?
Yeah, totally. I would have to. I think there is if you go to the Sevenly website and dig a little bit, it might be in the footer of the website. There should be a link, or I'm pretty
Charity
sure at
application.
least. Yeah,
Yep.
that's it. So I
I'm
mean, you
gonna
can kind of
pop it
submit.
up.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so basically, you can kind of submit your kind of request or suggestion, I guess, of a charity, and we've got kind of a representative who like contacts all the charities and kind of builds those relationships. And so she's the one that would get that and kind of start that process.
So I want to pop up a couple other questions people had said or comments they'd said just to give, and then I would love to show a few other pieces of your work, but I know you're on your lunch break, so we don't have all day. So I
No,
know
it's all
I
good.
appreciate your time. So Nathan,
Yeah.
Daniel said, Nathan, I appreciate your naturally open expressiveness, both personally and in your designs. It's just a good comment. I'm just sharing good comments. And then
Thanks,
Katie
Daniel.
said, I think it's awesome that you followed your passion and you merged it with your career. And I think that that is one of the reasons you feel like I'm doing what you just feel that you're there where you need to be. Um,
Yeah.
and Andy says, Andy Atkins says, thanks for being an inspiration, Nathan. I'm a senior in college for graphic design and I'm thinking about my next steps. Joe says, hey, Nathan, good to see you here. Keep up the great work. He's curious if and when you run into what artists sometimes call design blocks, what you do usually, or what have you done to get over those stumbling blocks? And I love that question. Can you address
Yeah.
it for us?
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely a hard, you know, thing to get past. One thing I have been kind of noticing, like since I've been out here, I feel like the more I've been kind of researching other kind of illustration styles and like other kind of options with type and like different styles of type and ways that I could illustrate the type and stuff like that. I've been kind of finding myself like not really hitting those walls quite as often as I used to, I feel like. And I've also been like really keeping myself from camping out too much on any one idea. Like if an idea isn't working, like I've been just like tossing it before I trip myself up too much on trying to make it work. Because if you're trying too hard to make it work, it's just not gonna be natural at the end, you know? And I feel like that's one of the big lessons I learned when I was just working with Sharpie and trying not to pencil stuff out so much,
Hmm.
is just that constant movement of moving forward, even if you feel like something looks stupid or you don't want to put that on paper because that's a dumb idea. It's like, no, it's not a dumb idea. Like, or maybe it is, but that dumb idea will like help you get to the better idea, you know? But you have to put that dumb idea down to clear it out of your head and get to that next thing. And I think it's just definitely about understanding yourself. A lot of it is too, because my version of getting over that creative block may not work for everybody, you know. But I definitely try to just kind of uh, don't get like too caught up in oh, like I was reading some like interview of like Dan Casaro a little while back, and he was talking about how um his advice to like designers and creatives was like not to like turn into this like uh design nerd where you're just kind of like always designing and like you never talk to anybody and you're always in your studio because you're a designer and you're awesome, you know? But it's like just get out and like live life and like make friends and like go places and see things and you know, it's like that stuff is important too, you know? And I think that's like a really good piece of advice too. You know, like I love riding my bike and I love riding my motorcycle and like stuff like that. It just like clears your mind. You know, you just get on there and ride, and it's like whenever I'm riding, like I can't think of anything else. Like I feel like it just like flushes my brain of everything. And whenever I come back to drawing, I just feel like ideas are just there. It's almost like they hit my face while I was writing and just lodged themselves in my brain and just came out on paper. You know, but yeah, I don't know, just constantly moving forward, even if you feel like an idea is dumb, and just getting out and walking away from your desk, you know, if you're not moving forward at all, you know. So
Totally agree. And I think using different mediums helps you because it's not something you're interested in and then or not something you're so familiar with. So when you use a
yeah,
different tool, you are like, wow. When I was in school, they would be like, switch hands drawing. And I'd be like, okay, this is going to look
yeah,
like awful when I'm drawing. But I
yeah,
ended up, if you're drawing big, life drawing, I could draw with my left hand just as good as I could draw with my right. I'm not Leonardo da Vinci. I couldn't
yeah,
draw and write apple at the same time, but
right.
it's the same kind of thing. So Joe wanted to know also, are there any mediums or techniques you haven't worked with but you would like to try?
Yeah, I feel like again, I feel like using a brush is like kind of pushing me a little further into the direction of where I'd kind of like to go. Like honestly, I would kind of like to get deeper into painting to where I could. I don't think I would necessarily use it in design for like it'd be hard to separate for like a shirt or something, but it'd be kind of cool to like paint more with like full color, you know. Like that's one thing. Like seeing Joshua Noom's work and like whenever he started doing type and stuff, like I knew him for that, and then I saw like some of his older work where he did a lot of just like acrylic painting and using all this color, and I was like, dude, like I didn't even know you could do all this stuff, you know. And it's like so inspiring to like see stuff like that where like I would love to like dive deeper into painting. I feel like there's just something about painting that like I just feel like it just feels like legitimate, you know, like it, it's just kind of like heavier, you know, where like working with a pen on paper, like it's cool and you can do great stuff, but I don't know, when I see like a painting, it's just kind of like, oh, you know, like there's just like some soul in that, you know, and I would love to get better at working with color. Like, I feel like I can experiment with color on the computer and like change things until I've got it where I want it. But when you're painting, I feel like you have to commit like right there when you're putting color down, you know, as to
Right.
what you want it to look like. And so I definitely like to get more into using color on paper. So like whether that be like watercolor or acrylics or I don't know, like maybe oils. I've never tried oils, but again, like I would just like to keep diving deeper and deeper into illustration, um, and
Have you
still
ever
kind
worked
of finding those. Or
have
go
you ever
ahead.
worked in printmaking like woodcuts or screen printing where you could play with color a little bit more, but you're still dealing with solid shapes or dot patterns or whatever. Have you ever done any of that?
Yeah, a little bit. Kind of
I
back
know you do
whenever
it
I
with
was
eraser.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I did like a little bit like some linoleum cuts like a while back. I don't know if you were following me for too long, you maybe saw some linoleum cuts that I posted about. But yeah, back again, like in high school, kind of tailing out of the kind of season of my eighth grade year when I was doing work for that guy at the t-shirt shop. Like my freshman
Right.
year into kind of my sophomore year, I bought my own screen printer and I started making t-shirts and stuff. And so I did a lot of screen printing then, but that was pretty early and like I was, I don't know what I was doing there. So like I wasn't doing like
Anyway.
posters or anything. It was just all like t-shirts. Um, but
Mhm.
yeah, I haven't done too much more stuff than that. I mean, I talk with like some of the prints on my website are risograph prints, which is a really cool kind of form of printing where it's almost like an office printer, but it kind of works like screen printing where it has like these master sheets that
Mhm.
all the dots get knocked out of, kind of like screen printing, and then ink gets pushed through that master sheet onto the paper. So you get kind
Mhm.
of this cool offset kind of look. So it's been cool kind of working with that and then screen printing again just on the posters, but that's about it.
Well, I just it's a simpler way maybe with than to separate colors out. But you could still maybe play with color. It's just a suggestion, but I mean, I go with the paint. That sounds great. I'm just gonna pull
Yeah,
up a
yeah,
couple pieces. If you want to talk about them a little, or we can just kind of, because we're out of time, I know, and I want to be able to share some of the links that you gave me. So this is in this room. It looks like because I see
yeah,
the flag and the bike.
yeah, yeah.
So what is
Yeah,
this
that
one?
that actually, yeah, I was gonna say, I was kind of excited about that one because that's a publication back in Oklahoma that it's called This Land Press, and so it's kind of spurs from the idea of like that Woody Guthrie song, like "This land is your land, this land is my land" kind of a thing. Anyways, that's like where they got their name. And Woody Guthrie was from Oklahoma, so it's just like a very like rich kind of like Oklahoma kind of spirited, magazine. So, and I knew about them, again, when I was in Oklahoma, but they reached out to me like a few, like last month. They asked me to do a cover and then like inside spread on that issue. And so I was really excited to be able to do that. So yeah, it was a poetry issue. And so they were featuring a bunch of different just poems and different, writers in there. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
It's beautiful. It looks like a two-color job. Am I there?
Are you there?
Yep.
I think you're
Are
back.
you?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, you cut out for a bit. I think I missed your question.
Is it a two-color job? Was that what this was? Or
Okay,
is
yeah.
it four color?
It's actually the cover was printed full color. So like if you actually looked at like the gold, it was made out of, the four color process. But yeah.
Cool. All right. How about this one?
Yeah, that one was cool because I again I was just kind of like thinking of different ways I could kind of mix up screen printing a little bit
Hmm.
and like utilize the think outside the box a little bit and again or go ahead.
No, go ahead. The overlay is what I was going to say, and how colors,
Yeah,
when you.
yeah, totally. And again, like Sean at work, like we've been talking a lot lately about like like I feel like Sean like does a great job of like exploring kind of at least lately like the kind of like old school like 50s kind of
Hmm.
illustrations where back in those days like they didn't have a lot of money for like multiple colors of ink, to use on a job. So they had to like combine colors to make more interesting images.
Hmm.
And so that kind of got me thinking with this one of like how I could bring in just two colors and make a third color and kind of just make something a little cooler, and kind of hint back at those kind of earlier times, when people were doing that. And so it's also kind of like probably an underhanded um, kind of point back to my high school, which it was the Eight Air Warriors. Like those weren't our colors, but whatever. I put a warrior on there and just drew warriors over the top of it. But yeah, so it's basically just a two-color print. It's just blue and red, but the whole background is a combination of the blue or the red on top of the blue. So yeah,
Cool. All right, so we have the tiger roaring, we have the bird or the meow or active. Well, I just think this one's so funny. I'll have to. So
yeah, yeah,
this one's
yeah. That one was cool.
hilarious.
My creative director Danny, he's so funny. Like with that one, he just came in one day and he was just kind of like he's so sporadic. Like he'll just like throw something at you and be like, "Okay, I got this like great phrase," you know. And you never know. Like I feel like if he's like joking with you or if he's being serious. And so whenever he told me the phrase, I was like, oh, all right. But I don't know. It was one of those things where initially I think you could have looked at it and been like, ah, like I don't know, like it's kind of goofy, you know. Like I don't know if just it's kind of weird, but like I felt like with that kind of a phrase, like I had to like take it all the way, you know, and I wanted to like really just kind of make it something cool, you know, rather than just like taking a lighthearted phrase and making it look lighthearted. Like I wanted it to kind of like look kind of mean, you know, and so. I kind of wanted to be like one of those second look kind of pieces where you look at it and you're like, wait, did that just say there's no better time than meow? You know? So I was kind of really inspired by like old school like firecracker packaging and like
Yeah,
kind of like the Black Cat firecracker packaging. So I was kind of looking um, to kind of make it look like that. So I guess that kind of answers Andy's question. He was kind of asking if I try to like imitate styles. So like I was seeing a lot of styles that kind of looked like the cat, but again, I didn't want to like totally rip off those things. So I kind of like look at all those pieces of inspiration and then I kind of like put them away and then just try to create my own version of it, you know? So that's kind of
I'm
how that one came together.
smiling so much my face hurts. So this will be like one of my nightmares for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Uh, but one thing I love about you, Nathan, you have such great energy, and it's hard not to smile just talking to you. But anyway, I would think that you would be great to work with too. I'm sure that those guys are really excited, but you're super humble, and your humility is. I'm just so thankful you're doing what you want to do because I think you should.
Well, thank you.
You're a great guy. So, all right, let's talk about
Thank
this
you.
one, and then maybe we can close on this one because I don't want to keep you too long.
Cool. Yeah. No, yeah, this one it was cool because again, like I've been exploring so many different kind of styles of illustration and different ways to illustrate things. You know, like painting it or using a dip pen. I was doing that for a while. You know, just kind of a traditional kind of fountain pen, just dipping it into ink and drawing. And I came to this one, and I was the look that I was wanting to go for. It was just kind of this really rounded kind of I and I was thinking about going into it with the dip pen, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to like ever limit myself to just one medium, and I guess that's kind of where I was at again with the Sharpie for a little while. I was like priding myself that I only worked with Sharpie, and that was like my thing. I'm cool because I'm only working with a Sharpie, but I'm doing this, and like whatever. And I kind of got to a point where I was just like, Nathan, like get over yourself, like use whatever you want to get the image you want to do, you know what I mean? So I feel like with this piece, that's kind of where I was at. I was like, you know, uh, yeah, I'm doing, a dip pen and it makes you feel like you're some traditional artist, but for the look I want, honestly, a Sharpie is like all I needed to use. And so I just decided to go with the Sharpie, and I don't know. There's just something about using a fine point Sharpie that just gives a really nice kind of soft look to it, and it's easy to kind of create that rounded edge and the thick lines and kind of a combination of a lot of different things. But like, yeah. So I don't know. That's kind of a roundabout way of describing that one.
I think that one's great. So, do you want to talk about the tiger or the little yellow bird? Either one of
Um,
those, or do you?
yeah, actually, yeah, you can pull up the little bird actually, because I feel like that's one kind of style of illustration that I haven't done a lot of, but I'd kind of like to revisit. It's kind of funny because this bird, like, I don't know if you like read the captions on Instagram, but for like the past like month or so, and just like tapping on my window, and then it would just kind of, whenever I'd come to like look at it, just kind of fly back up in the tree. And I just thought it was so funny. So I was like doing some research on like what this bird was, and it turns out it was a yellow, warbler. Whim, I was like, you know what? I think I'll just like draw this bird, and I was following there's a an artist, trying to remember the name. Anyways, like she's been doing a lot of great stuff with just pencil, but then also watercolor. And again, I feel like pencil is kind of one of those mediums that I kind of discount sometimes. I'm like, oh, pencil, like that's just what I use when I'm sketching out ideas. So I kind of, I don't know, like lower its value a little bit. And I don't know, she's just doing some really cool stuff with just pencil and watercolor. And so I wanted to kind of try that out a little bit. And so that drawing that bird was just kind of my excuse to kind of try those two different mediums. And so yeah, I was kind of really excited about how it came out. But again, I feel like there's so much value in looking at the subject and looking at the concept and the idea, but then also looking about how you're going to illustrate it, because how you're going to illustrate it carries so much personality. Where like that bird, if I illustrated it, if I was to illustrate it with a Sharpie, it would just look more harsh, and like a little, like the personality would just be a little heavier. And I feel like the personality that I was going for when I was drawing that bird, it's just a small little bird, and it's kind of like whimsical, and that it's just been just kind of
Mhm.
showing up and like pecking at my window. It's not a very heavy thing. It's kind of lighthearted. And there's nothing funny about that bird, but the way you illustrate it can kind of give a lighter feel, rather than it
Right.
being so heavy. So
And
I
it's
don't know.
warmer in
But
this medium too, I think.
yeah, totally. And I've actually got it right here.
Oh, it's tiny.
Yeah,
Wow.
just a little guy. But
Oh, that's awesome.
anyways, yeah,
Well, I want to share some of your links. So, and I just pulled a bunch of old ones as well. I know, yeah,
cool.
Jason.
Yeah,
Jason also works really small. I told him he probably would like wood engraving. I'm still going to send you that girl. I haven't forgotten, Jason. It's when I take a week off, I can get caught up. So if you guys want to follow Nathan, I'm going to give you out some a bunch of different links. But this is nathanyoder.com, and then there's places you can buy some stuff, which we're always happy to support Nathan. So store at
yeah,
nathanyoder.co, and then society6 at .com/Nathan
yeah.
Yoder.
Which that one's a little older. Like I haven't updated that in a while. So I mean, I guess work on there is still relevant, but it's some of my earlier work. So
Well, and I
yeah,
think the Behance is kind of older too, but you update Dribble pretty good, or
yeah, yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Behance. I've been thinking about that. I need to like put something up on Behance, but there's
Well,
nothing up there right now. But yeah,
it says you're still in Tulsa, so I was like,
yeah,
he hasn't
yeah,
updated this in a while. But
yeah.
Dribble is a
Exactly.
great place. But I'm just giving
Yeah.
you a hard time, out of
No,
love
it's like
only.
yeah,
And then Instagram, I think for me, Instagram is how I found you, and then you're really um, very prolific in there. So I love that. So that's a great place to follow him. And
yeah,
let's see, I think that's the ones I had. I have two Instagrams, so I can add them both. But um,
yeah.
but Nathan, thank you so much, and I so appreciate you coming back and being on. And I appreciate everybody who came. I'm glad. I hope I got all your questions answered. Next week we will also have somebody who knows Nathan. It'll the Hood twins from they're also in Orange County. Amy and Jen Hood are going to be on talking about a little bit about business. So I'm real excited to have them on as well. They're really neat, and they also do some hand drawn type too. But Nathan, you're awesome. Keep going and keep you are so good and humble, and you're so easy to talk to and share. And I just wish you the best of luck, because I'm really excited that you're so happy and doing what you like.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and thanks so much for having me on again. It's good to kind of follow up, and it's just funny, getting ready for being on again. It's just got me thinking back to the time whenever I was last on. Like so much has happened, so it's cool to kind of look back and see where you're at and see where you're at now. So yeah,
And the last show is in the archives at designrecharge.org. And if you guys want to catch it, it was really good. I know that the images for Spreecast, I was using Pinterest then, and they don't come up anymore, but I think they're all loaded still in Pinterest, so you can see what we're talking about. But he shows stuff like from like when you were drawing in high school and stuff like that. So it really kind of gives a little bit of more of Nathan's history, and so I definitely would watch that one if I were you guys. So catch up, you know, and I think he had just gotten the job, and I couldn't say anything. We kept it totally quiet,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then he left like the next couple weeks or something. So if you guys
Yeah.
want to catch it again, you can always watch the replay. But if you don't want to ever miss another episode, I'm gonna pop up. You can subscribe at designrecharge.org/subscribeland.html, and then you'll be able to not miss any of the episodes. And next week, and then that'll be the last for the year of 2013. So, Nathan, so glad to have you twice in 1 year.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Well, thanks for staying a little over, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.
That was good. See ya.